Here's a match I had against a great opponent today. Great not just because he was a cool and nice person, but also because he's running Weyland. I haven't seen Weyland in a very, very long time, so I was very excited to get my game up against Weyland. I knew that Weyland was definitely one of the bigger weaknesses of my kit deck, simply because my kit doesn't run any of the competitive economy engines that most high-level decks run nowadays. Be it account siphons, security testing with desperados, prepaid, voice pad, and event recursion. All these are very strong economic engines that you more or less need nowadays in order to win against any corp that can tag and back you. So, I have a very bad start because I don't see my sure gamble. So my only economy right now is Prof Contacts, which is very click intensive. So I have very little time to run. And when I do run, I bump into pretty much the worst ice I could imagine. Short of a Janus, I guess. It's an Ichi 2.0. I ran on my last click, and not only do I get my programs trashed, but more importantly, because I ran with 0 credits in hand, I take a brain damage and I take a tag, both of which contribute towards Weyland's win condition of flatlining me. So that was very tough to swallow. Because I ran with 0 credits on my second last click, I couldn't even use the last click to burn the tag. So that was a huge, huge setback. But admittedly, this outcome could have easily occurred if Weyland packed a snare as well. If I hit a snare on my R&D access, the same thing would happen. And I would lose 3 net I would take 3 net damage in addition. So either way, it's very bad for me. Thankfully, he showed a lot of mercy by not killing my Prof Contacts and my daily cast. Had he done that, I would be in a world of hurt right now. So he was very, very kind, I must say, because I basically hit one of the most crippling ice that I could ever hit, and I should have been punished way more for that. But he let me go, and I'm not going to show any complacency for that. I cleared the tag immediately the next turn, so I can slowly build up my economy with daily cast running and Prof Contacts drawing. I finally draw into what I want to see, a Datasucker, and immediately load it up. Even though that's 1 click so-called wasted, because it's 1 click not spent drawing or gaining credits, at least I have 1 Datasucker token to go along with. One thing that must be mentioned is that I started with a fantastic hand with a York already in hand, so I do not need to worry about tutoring it. I can play it anytime and surprise him by running any ice that is 4 strength or lower. I'm going to get through. So I continue drawing up. Right now, I'm evaluating the servers, and R&D is by far the weaker server, because not only is there only 1 piece of ice there, but it's also res. I know exactly what I'm up against. So I'm looking to exploit that by parasiting the Ichi down. I do not wish to deal with the Ichi, because he can easily install over the Ichi and cause it to not gain the code gate subtype. And once it's just a sentry, it's very hard to deal with. So that is definitely getting parasited down. Now, I finally have some semblance of economy going, so I can afford to actually install my programs and hardware. I get a clone chip up to recurse Parasite. So far, he's building up a lot of remotes. I'm completely not concerned with them at all. To me, Weyland unadvanced cards are of absolutely no threat whatsoever. If it's a posted bounty, he cannot tag me and scorch me in the same turn. If it's a Project Atlas, he cannot over-advance it to tutor more cards. So I'm completely not worried about unadvanced cards at all. Only when he starts advancing his assets do I need to be concerned. And now I'm making a conscious effort to always keep at least 4 cards in hand. Otherwise, even with a plus crit out, a simple C-Scotch combo would kill me. So I need to make, especially with the brain damage taken, I need to make a conscious effort to always draw back up, even if it's a draw last click, because I desperately need to make sure that I remain afloat of the C double Scotch combo. Alright, so here he underestimates one of the most dangerous engines in the game, the double Datasucker combo. With each central run I make, I gain 2 Datasucker tokens, which is incredibly powerful against most ice. So by not protecting his centrals, he's allowing me to gain a lot of ground. And yeah, it's a huge mistake, especially if the open central is R&D. If it's archives, I'm not gaining too much, but if it's R&D, I'm gaining card accesses in addition to Datasucker tokens, which bodes poorly for the Corp. So if I were in his position, I would definitely scramble to get some ice over R&D ASAP. Even if it means they'll be eventually trashed by Parasite, at least he has to force me to waste sucker tokens and clone chips to get the Parasites out. Now, what he did here was to up the Draco to 4 because he thought that I was running a Mimic. But I prompted him to think about it some more, pointing to my 2 Datasuckers on the board which contain 4 tokens. So upon realizing what was up with my deck is actually a Parasite Recursion deck, he realized that his best move, in his best interest, he would want to pump the Draco up to 5 instead of 4 to avoid any chance of me breaking the Draco down with Parasite, which I would have done if he left it at 4. So clearly, I knew that was an agenda for sure, because he was definitely trying to rush that out. And because I couldn't get into the server this turn, I not only allowed him to score that 5-pointer, but more importantly, I took a tag. And Astute Runner at this point, no, his correct move would have been to score the priority rack. It is a lose-lose situation for him. He has to score the priority rack because otherwise next turn I can easily get in by running a central and then attacking the Draco. Instead, he doesn't score. I mean, if what I would rather do is to, instead of scoring, blow up the Prof Contacts and ice up the centrals. That would have been a much better play if he could afford that. But he has to score the priority rack. He cannot afford to let me get the 3 points instead. A 6-point swing in my favor is way too much, especially when he has already invested so many clicks in trying to score that priority rack. So we go on with the game, and what happens is that, of course, he zaps me with the DeKITter response team because I didn't clear the tag from Draco earlier on, which was a huge mistake on my part because I already saw the DeKITter response team on top of R&D. That was a very careless mistake by me. I definitely should have cleared the tag before running, especially since the central's open already. Instead, I went way too aggressive. And yeah, as a result, I have to spend the entirety of next turn drawing up, just so that I can avoid the Sea Scorch combo. Now he installs another card in the remote. Once again, I'm not feeling threatened about it at all because Weyland. It's not NBN where every unadvanced remote matters because it could be an Astro Strip. Alright, so you can see how desperate he is because his only ice that he could muster up to defend R&D is a Chimera, which I can easily break through because of Kit. And he has to pay 2 to res it every single turn. So he is in very poor shape right now. I mean, that is the problem when you're running Ice Light. You are very susceptible to any strategy involving Parasite, and my deck really leverages on punishing runners, that Corps that run Ice Light. And this is exactly the deck type that my deck would do very well against. All I need to do is to avoid the flatline, and I can slowly grind out the win. So with a very healthy economy engine finally going, being able to draw into 2 daily casts, I can start placing real pressure on the Corp. He finally gets another piece of ice on R&D, about time. So I'm not worried about it at all because Chimera is 0 strength. It dies instantly to Parasite without even needing a single Datasucker token. and I have 10 Datasucker tokens, so I'm very loaded right now. And he cannot afford to purge virus counters because his archives is still open. So I attempt to face check R&D and I run into the big fat Hadrian's Wall. No problem. I wanted to use the parasite on the Chimera, but seeing that it's a Hadrian's Wall that is very annoying to get past any day of the week, I decide to parasite it down instantly. So by paying 2 credits, I make him lose the 10 rest costs of Hadrian's Wall. That puts him so far back. Even for Weyland as a rich corp, you don't want to have your Hadrian's Wall power shut down, let alone parasited away. So I bounce off the Chimera because it is no longer a code gate, but on the bright side, bouncing off the Chimera forces him to lose another 2 credits. So he's bleeding credits right now, which is very unusual for Weyland, but that's what happens when you're up against ice destruction. It's effectively credit denial without requiring a single criminal card or NR cards. Alright, so he advances a shadow presumably to keep my York out of reach, but to me again that's no problem because I have Datasuckers on my side. I draw into even more economy, and because he didn't ice up R&D, the only logical move from here on is to run R&D. Yeah, I should be running R&D. I'm not sure why I'm not doing it here. Obviously, the wise move here is to run R&D. Not only to access cards, but also to get sucker tokens. Maybe I ran it earlier listed, I forgot. In either case, I'm destroying the dedicated response team. Probably because I'm worried that he will draw into another Data Raven in near future. And having to deal with that against a DRT is pretty annoying. I don't want to play carelessly right now because I can easily lose to a flat line. But now it's not the time to be cautious because he's on match point. He just got an Atlas. I'm not too concerned about that, as I said. So I just slowly grinded out the victory from R&D. I don't consider this kit that exactly competitive. I just realized, in earlier videos I might have said that this deck is on par with Kate Parasite Recursion decks or Catman decks, but in reality, losing that 5 influence means that I'm not able to include Desperado, which is a very strong economy card for the aggressive deck that I'm trying to run. Secondly, economy is just a big issue all around. I don't run any KT Jones, so I'm completely reliant on drawing my show gambles and daily casts for money. And finally, and probably most importantly, this deck struggles big time against big ice decks. Glacier decks that can easily ice up all 3 centrals with 2 pieces of ice or more without worrying too much. The likes of both HP Engineering the Future and Replicating Perfection easily counter my deck. Once they get 2 pieces of ice on each central server, the game's over for me because I can only break through the outermost ice with York. The innermost ice, I have to be forced to parasite it down. And the moment they clear virus counters, the parasite will take a long time to activate, effectively shutting me out of any means of victory. So my deck is completely focused on the early game. I need to get the Datasucker engine rolling early on, and I need to destroy their ice before they can build up their servers. But this is very hard against any form of asset-based economy, like Sundews, protected Sundews for that matter, and protected Adonis campaigns. Because as having very little economy myself, I really don't wish to trash any of these cards. So RP decks and HP Glacier decks will get their money, and all they need to do is drop enough ice to protect the centrals, and they're good against me. So that's why I think this deck is still not very competitive. But I'm still trying it out, trying to figure out what's the best way to build around this, and hopefully I can make a solid deck that will perform against all corps in the early stage of the game regardless. Thanks for watching. Happy net running.